today's session, we're going to learn how to respond, not just react to life. I was in Kansas City, Missouri. It had been one of those weeks. I'd been border to border, coast to coast, north, south, east, and west, doing those 4-hour seminars. I'll tell you, by Friday, I was bushed. Now, Friday was a little different type of session. We were recording. When you record, you move it up one more notch for audio. And the reason is you do not have the body language to communicate with. You rely entirely on the voice. So that morning it was full speed ahead, wide open. Well, when I finished at 1 o'clock, I really was tired. We had a flight back to Dallas at 3 o'clock. They had said to us, you need to get there at least 1 hour early because the piece of recording equipment we had at that time weighed 144 pounds. Well, my son-in-law, who works with me, packed it as quickly as he could. We caught a cab. We made the mad dash to the airport, got there straight up and down 2 o'clock. We're on time. We walked in the airport. There were 2 long lines of people. I got in the line, which I thought was the shortest, and prepared to wait. But almost immediately I noticed there was a lady walking around behind the counter. I knew she was the ticket agent. At one end of the counter I saw a sign that said position closed. Now I knew on the other side of position closed was position open, so I got ready. I wanted to be the first in that new line. Well, sure enough, about 3 minutes later, the lady walks down to that spot. She flips the sign over. She grinned at the long 2 lines of people and very pleasantly said, those of you who have a seat on the 3 o'clock flight to Dallas, come over here. Well, quick as a flash, I was over there. I mean, I got to the new line before anybody else had even left the old line. I had snookered the crowd. The lady smiled at me in a very friendly manner and said, the 3 o'clock flight to Dallas has been canceled. I said, fantastic. She looked at me and she said, what did you say? I said, fantastic. She said, look, I just told you your flight has been canceled. Why on earth would you say fantastic? I said, ma'am, it's very simple. There are only 3 reasons on the face of this earth why anybody would ever cancel a flight to Dallas, Texas. I said, number 1, something must be wrong with that airplane. Or number 2, something must be wrong with that person who's going to fly that airplane. Or number 3, something must be wrong with the weather that person's going to fly that airplane in. Now I said, ma'am, if either one of those 3 situations exist, I don't want to be up there. I want to be right down here. Fantastic. Have you ever noticed how some people just can't wait to give you the bad news? Oh, Sally, I hate to tell you this. It just kills me to tell you this. They can't wait to get the bad news out. She put her hands on her hips. She said, yeah, but the next flight doesn't leave until 6:05. I said, fantastic. Well, by now, these 2 long lines of people over here looking over at me as if to say, who is that crazy guy that says everything is fantastic? Well, the lady looked at me and she said, now look, I just told you that you've got a 4-hour wait in this airport and you say fantastic. Now, why on earth would you say a thing like that? I said, ma'am, it's very simple. I'm 53 years old. Never before, not even once in my entire lifetime, have I ever had a chance to spend 4 hours in the airport in Kansas City, Missouri. Why, do you realize at this precise moment there are literally millions of people on the face of this earth who not only are cold, but who also are hungry? And here I am in one of the nicest buildings in this entire area, easily the best rent-free office I've ever had in my life. And it's warm inside, though it is cold outside. And down the hallway, you have got a nice little coffee shop. I'm going to go down there, get myself a cup of coffee, and then I've got some critically important work I need to get done, and here I am in a rent-free facility to do it. I said, it's absolutely fantastic. Now, as you view this, as you participate in this session, you might well be thinking to yourself, well, now, I have heard about positive thinking, But Ziegler, that's ridiculous. Are you kidding me, man? Did you really say those things? Scout's honor. Not only did I say them, but I have a witness to the fact that I said them. Okay, I'll take your word for it. You said it, but now tell me the truth, Ziegler. Did you really feel that way? Come on, man. Did you really feel that way? Why, of course not. I was tired. I'd been gone all week. I wanted to be home. But the truth is, there was nothing on this earth I could do about getting on home. So I had to make a choice, ladies and gentlemen. Do I respond to life or do I react to life? Now you got to understand, respond is positive. For example, you go to the doctor gives you a prescription and says, see me tomorrow. Well, when you walk in the next day, the doctor begins to shake the head and say, uh-oh, we're going to have to change the prescription because your body is reacting to the medicine. Well, you get a little upset about that, unhappy because you fear it might be some trouble. But if the doctor smiles and says, oh boy, it is working, your body is responding to treatment, you get all excited. Do you respond to life or do you react to life? I chose to respond for the simple reason there are some things that you absolutely are not going to change. If you were born white, you're going to stay white. If you were born black, you're going to stay black. You're not going to change when you were born, where you were born, how you were born, or to whom you were born. As a matter of fact, you will not change one whisper about yesterday. But tomorrow, that's an entirely different game. And whether you respond to life or whether you react to life is going to play a major role in where you go in life. It is not what happens to you. It is what you make of what happens to you that will make a difference. Now, I could have reacted very sarcastically when the lady told me my flight had been canceled. I could have said, that's great. That's just great. I've had this reservation over 3 months. I have had my ticket over a month. I've even got my seat assignment. All I need is a boarding pass. I come up here, I've done everything you told me to do. You said get here an hour early, I did. When I was riding up there, I saw a dozen of you on airplanes sitting right out there on the runway, not doing a cotton-picking thing. Now, why can't you crank one of those dudes up and take me on down to Dallas? I could have done that. And the next flight still leaves at 6:05. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to confess to you, I did not know the lady's name who told me my flight had been canceled. To be candid, I do not know the name of a single person who works with that big old airline, and it is a big one. But this I do know. I know that because it is their airline, they can cancel my flight if they want to. But they cannot cancel my day. God Himself gave it to me with written instructions. I'm supposed to be happy and enjoy that day. You know how folks are. You let them cancel one day, and the first thing you know, they'll want to cancel another one, and the first thing you know, a week's gone, and then the first thing you know, a month, and maybe a whole year. I've seen some people have their entire lifetime canceled because of some tragedy or event in their life. Do we respond or do we react? I could have jumped up and down and hooted and shouted and screamed and hollered. I could have made an absolute idiot out of myself. I could have been totally obnoxious, demanding my rights. I'll sue you, that's what I'll do. I'll have you in court. I could have done that. And the next flight still leaves at 6:05. The question is, do you respond to life or do you react to life? Let me ask you, have you ever been driving down the freeway on your way to work? You're neither positive nor negative, you're just riding along, and all of a sudden some idiot pulls right in front of you. And you have to slam on your brakes and you hit your horn all at the same time, and you proceed to give him a piece of your mind. Why don't you watch where you're going, you dummy? I could have been killed and so could you. If I ever see you out here on this freeway again, it's going to be me and you. I got your tag number, and don't you think I won't be looking for you either. You get on down to the office, and what do? You tell the first person you saw about these crazy people driving around you, and you tell the second person and the third person about these people. They're wild, must have been drunk, must have been on drugs, must have been something bad wrong. Oh, I mean, you're really unloading. And in the meantime, the man who committed the dastardly deed rides merrily along, unaware of the fact that you even exist. And yet he is in complete control of your relationships with those under you, around you, and over you. He's in complete control of your productivity, which means he literally is in control of your future, and he doesn't even know you live. It is the ultimate put down. Do you respond or do you react? I well remember one day I'd been over to the bank, and as I was leaving the bank and pulling out into traffic, I did it half right. I looked to the right. Well, as I pulled into the flow of traffic, all of a sudden I heard the screeching of brakes and the screaming of a horn, and I hit my brakes very quickly and looked up just in time to see a dude come pulling by in a big old limousine. I'll tell you, the look that guy gave me, if looks would kill, there would have been a funeral in my hometown. If looks would melt steel, I'd have been in the market for a new automobile. I've never seen such a high concentration of ugly in one spot in my entire lifetime. And so as it went tooling by, I threw up my hand, I said, "Hi!" The guy did a double take looking back at me, and he said, "Hi!" Probably wondering who on earth that was. Boy, must have been a friend of mine. I almost blew it there. Now, folks, I'm absolutely convinced that is much smarter than having me shake my fist at him and say, "Why don't you watch where you're going, dummy? I could have been going killed too. You were going too fast, and you know you were going too fast. You come on back. I won't talk to you." And have that guy back up, get out of his car, come over and pull me out of mine and whoop up on me? Ain't no way. Now we laugh about that. I think it's funny. But let me emphasize a point. Every day all over this world, there are a number of people who are killed who are theoretically mature adults because of some minor, insignificant thing. They get all bent out of shape about it, and they go to war and fight about it. Do you respond or do you react? I want to share with you some thoughts and some ideas. You know, occasionally we meet obnoxious people, don't we? I mean, we can be nice and describe them in other terms, but there really are obnoxious people. But the question we need to ask ourselves is, will we let that person dictate to us the kind of individual we are? Do we surrender control to them, or do we maintain control ourselves? Remember, it's the ultimate put down when they take control of you, and it damages your career. So how do we respond instead of reacting? Fred Smith, a close friend of mine, probably the brightest human being I've ever known. He's retired, had an enormously successful business career. He is a consultant now, serves on some major boards around our country. Fred Smith says this: when somebody is rude or mean or obnoxious to us, in most cases it is not because they want to hurt us. In most cases it is because they are hurting. And if we can put it in that perspective, shifting it from us to them, instead of letting it become our problem, when we understand that here's a human being who is hurting, not that it will relieve all of our pain, but it will enable us to deal with that pain and handle that situation in such a better way. It would be remarkably better. Then the second thing we need to do to respond, we need to ask ourselves, what difference does it really make? Suppose the cab driver was rude to you when he or she brought you over to this particular filming. In the overall scheme of life, what difference does that make? Suppose the waffle did arrive cold and you had looked forward to a hot one. What difference does that make? Suppose one of your clients has a bad day and is rude to you. In the overall picture, what difference does that really make? Now, the next step is going to be pretty heavy, but it says something that if we'll all hear, it will make a difference in our lives. One Christmas several years ago, I got a large Christmas card, one of those that's notebook paper size, 8.5 by 11. It had about 10 words in the printed verse on one side. The other side was obviously for correspondence. A gentleman wrote me a lengthy letter, beautifully, meticulously written in very, very small handwriting, extraordinarily legible. I could read every bit of it. In this letter, he said to me, you know, Zig, all those years ago, when you and I had those altercations, both of them, I felt you were 100% at fault. But over the years, I've come to realize that it is I who was wrong. It is you who were right. The reason I'm writing you is I want to clear the deck. I want you to forgive me so that I can go ahead with my life. He signed his name. I've wished so many times since then he had put his address. The postmark was blocked out. I could not even tell the city he was from. I've searched my memory bank. I searched my mailing list. I've searched my files. I've done everything on earth I could for quite a little while, trying to recall who this gentleman was. My memory bank is totally void. I have no idea. The name rings no bells. I have no earthly idea what he's talking about. And yet I'm so grateful that he wrote the letter, because what that did is extremely important to him. It took an enormous load off of his back. You see, he no longer carries that particular burden. And how much better off is he? Now, what I'm suggesting is going to be a very dangerous thing for you to do. The reason I say it's dangerous will become obvious as we talk. I'm going to suggest that you forgive whoever has done you wrong. I don't care what the wrong was. Whether it was stealing money from you, whether it's a relative who abused you as a child, whether you've been a victim even of incest, whether you've gone through a bitter divorce and you've had enormous problems, I'm going to say to you, forgive that person. And you might well think, and I can understand this, but Zig, I'll never forget that dirty so-and-so. He or she deserves everything I can do to them. They don't deserve to be forgiven. Might be right. They might not deserve being forgiven. But you deserve the benefits which will be yours by forgiving them. Now, why do I say it's dangerous? It is dangerous because you lose one of the excuses you might have been using all of your life. The reason I cannot do more is because somebody did this to me. You now, when you forgive that individual, you are saying, I now accept responsibility for my future. That's what you're really saying. And what a dramatic difference that will make. Now, I want to emphasize that sometimes it's impossible for you to forgive, particularly if you've been a victim of a sexual abuse crime. You might well need counseling in order for that to happen, for you to forgive that other person. I plead with you, get that counseling. Most importantly, forgive yourself. You were innocent. If you were a child, there's nothing you could have done about it to prevent it. There's nothing you could have done to have stopped it from happening. If there are any feelings of guilt, they're placed there because the perpetrator of the deed placed them there. When you clean the slate, it's amazing what you can do. the load will be so much lighter. You'll be able to move forward with much more effectiveness. The fourth thing you need to do, if you're going to respond to life instead of reacting to life, you need to learn how to train fleas. Now, just as a matter of curiosity, in our live audience here today for our filming, how many of you here today do not know how to train fleas? Don't know how? What about that? Looks like I got here just in time, okay? I want to tell you something. I say that seriously because until you know how to train fleas, I don't care where you live, you're never going to make it in life. You train fleas by placing them in a jar. Put the top on the jar and notice those fleas. They'll start jumping. They'll jump up and they'll hit that top over and over and over and over and over and over, and you will wonder if they will ever stop. But then you watch them and you'll notice that though they continue to jump, all of a sudden they're no longer hitting the top. And you can literally take the top off. And then the fleas will continue to jump, but they cannot jump out. I said, cannot jump out. And the reason they cannot is simply because they have been conditioned to jump just so high. And once they've been conditioned to jump just so high, that's all there is. There ain't no more. They can do no more. Man is exactly the same way. Many people start out in life to climb the mountain, to write the book, to break the record, to make a difference. And along the way, they bump their head a few times, they stub their toe, and they become what I call a SNIOP. Now that's spelled S-N-I-O-P. That is a person who is susceptible to the negative influence of other people. The 4-minute mile is a classic example. For years and years, athletes had tried to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. But the doctors had said, man, your heart just will not stand it. It'll come right out of your body. The coaches had put the stopwatch on them, and they said, a 4-minute mile? No way. Maybe 4:02, maybe 4:03, but a 4-minute mile, absolutely impossible. And nobody broke the barrier until a fleet trainer from Britain broke the record. His name is Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister, with a plan, with a tremendous amount of preparation, with a great deal of expectancy, and responding instead of reacting, Bannister went out and broke the barrier. He ran the race in less than 4 minutes. Less than 6 weeks later, Landy of New Zealand ran the mile in less than 4 minutes. John Walker, also of New Zealand, ran the mile in less than 4 minutes on over 120 different occasions. There have been 5 races run where 8 young men in the same race ran the mile in less than 4 minutes. One guy, 37 years old, ran the mile in less than 4 minutes. It's happened way over 1,000 times when you put them all together. Did it happen because man got that much faster? Not at all. It happened simply because the barrier was not a physiological barrier, it was a psychological barrier. And when one person did it, then other talented, dedicated athletes started saying, if he can do it, I can do it. The same thing happens in your very company, in your very family. When one person sticks the head above the crowd and breaks a record or does something significant, other people start saying, if she can, I can. If he can, I can. Now, what is a fleet trainer? A fleet trainer is simply a person who is driven from within. They are not influenced by the SNIOPs. A fleet trainer basically understands that you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. A fleet trainer doesn't tell others where to get off. They show them how to get on. A fleet trainer doesn't try to see through people. A fleet trainer sees people through. As a fleet trainer, you'll be able to respond to life instead of react to life. So, what do? We're going to summarize what we've learned. Well, the first thing, remember, when you're dealing with somebody who is obnoxious, they're probably hurting. Remember that. Second thing you need to do is ask yourself the question, does it really matter? Third, we need to forgive whatever might have been done. Sometimes it's in our imagination. Now, obviously, not often. But sometimes we have perceived a hurt which was not intended, and it maybe might happen more than we realize it. Evaluate it carefully. Forgive and move forward. And fourth, then, we need to know how to train fleas. So, when do you take action? Well, I think this story, as I wind up this session, tells you when to take action. As a child, I was raised in the little town of Yazoo City, Mississippi. Now, just as a matter of curiosity, how many of you in this audience today have never been to Yazoo City, Mississippi? Never been? That's fantastic. Everybody ought to have something to look forward to, and you certainly have. Now, Yazoo City is not a very big place. As a matter of fact, we've hung a mirror up at the end of Main Street to make it look bigger. But it is exciting. About once a month a train comes through town. Now, I know, a lot of people don't think that sounds like excitement, but when you understand we don't have any tracks there, that puts it in an entirely different category. Main Street runs through a car wash if you begin to get the picture of what it's all about. Now, I was born in L.A., that's Lower Alabama. And I only mention those things because I wanted to kind of establish where we are. Incidentally, I tease about my hometown a lot because we're confident in that little town that we've accomplished a lot. The former president of the American Medical Association is from Yazoo City, Mississippi. Former president of the American Bar Association is from Yazoo City, Mississippi. Former president of the Southern Baptist Convention. The former editor of Harper's Magazine. Several distinguished jurists are all from Yazoo City, Mississippi. Jerry Clowers is from Yazoo City, Mississippi. Have no idea what happened to the other three. But it really is an exciting place. Well, anyhow, one day I was next door for lunch, as I tried to be most every day. Now, let me emphasize the point. These folks that lived next door to us were rich. I know they were rich for two reasons. Number one, they had a cook. Number two, the cook had something to cook. And during the Depression, that's a sign of wealth. I was there for lunch, and incidentally, though I was over there often for lunch, that does not mean that we did not have plenty to eat at my house, even though there was a Depression on. I know we had plenty, because every time I passed my plate for seconds, they'd always say, no, you've had plenty. So I know that we had plenty to eat at my house. Well, on this particular day, the cook brought the biscuits out. And I looked at him, I said, Maud, what on earth happened to your biscuits? And she gave a big old tummy laugh. Now, some people call them rolls. And she gave that big old tummy laugh, and she said, well, I'll tell you about those biscuits. They squatted to rise. But she said they just got cooked in the squat. Let me ask you a question. Do you know anybody that gets cooked in the squat? Do you know anybody who's a half a mind to do something, or they're gonna do something? You see, the half-a-minders and the gonna-doers end up, generally speaking, being the never-doers. Have you ever experienced or noticed this happening? Toward the end of the school year, a project comes up. Maybe it's a civic project. Maybe it's a sales campaign. Maybe it's a political campaign or whatever. And you say, boy, I'm going to get involved in that. I really relate to that. But it's almost time for school to get out. And the kids are going to all these parties. I'll wait until the kids get out of school, then I'll have more time. The kids get out of school and they say, you know, I didn't realize it. I have to take them more places now than ever before. Wait till the kids get back in school, and then I'll really get involved. The kids get back in school and they say, well, you know, the athletic events are all in the fall of the year. Wait till the fall is over, and then I really will get busy. As soon as the athletic events end, they say, well, here it is now. It's it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's or whatever the holidays are in my part of the world. Wait till the holidays are over. Then I'll get busy, because people just don't want to be bothered this time of year for that. After the first of the year, they say, well, now it's the weather. Have you ever seen weather like this? It's strange. It changes from one day to the next. Now, what I'm saying is that they are looking for excuses. Now, I know a lot of times that individual might say, now I know what you're thinking. You are thinking that I've lost interest. Not true, not true at all. Let me tell you, just let me tell you the way I do things. You see, when I get involved in a project, I look at all of the factors. I outline the steps. I detail the procedures. And then, man, when I get ready to go, I really am in it. Now, I know some of these other folks are ahead of me now, but this works best for me. I mean, I like to get everything just right. Well, as soon as the weather clears up, they say, well, here it is, holiday time again. It is Easter time. And you know, that's family time. And you said it yourself. You got to spend time with the family. If you don't spend time with the family, there is no purpose in all of the work. Wait till I've had some family time. They have some family time, then they say, well, at long last, we've got some decent weather. I haven't been skiing, or I haven't been golfing, or I haven't been fishing. I haven't had any fun at all. And you know, a feller's got to have some time off. You can't work all the time. Now, as soon as I do that, then, man, I'll get busy. They do a little of that, and then they say, well, it's almost time for the kids to get back out of school. And that's where we came in. Let me tell you something, folks. When you wait for Aunt Matilda to move out, or John to get on the day shift, when you wait for the new politician to be elected, or the new advertising campaign to get started, when you wait for the rate of interest to come down, or inflation to slow, when you wait for the new model to come out, or anything else to change out there, before you make your commitment and take your action in here, nothing is going to happen. You'll end up getting cooked in the squad. Do it now is the message, because if it is to be, it is up to me. Buy these ideas and concepts. Take these steps. Follow these procedures, because if you do, I'll see you. And yes, I really do mean you at the top.